everybody. Nino the Mystic here, and welcome to another Let's Talk. And tonight we're going to be talking about what lies underneath the ocean in the far depths of it, where we haven't gone to explore. What do you think is down there? We're going to talk about that tonight. So how you doing, Robert?
Doing great. You know, this was one of the really interesting topics that we picked out. And speaking of the ocean, we've only explored like 25% of the ocean. That's it. And it's a big one.
Well, not only that, but I by watching the video and doing some research here, I didn't realize that our planet is actually covered. 75% of our planet is covered by ocean. So there's only 25% that's land here. So it would be kind of naive to think that there's not a whole lot more maybe going on under there than even up here, you know what I mean? Like, or even under earth, inside the earth. I mean, there's probably a combination, or in the ocean, or inside the earth. And I think I have a sneaking suspicion that Antarctica is like an entry or an exit point of some sort to get under there. Yeah, that's kind of my that's been my feeling for a while now, and I think that's why we're not allowed to go there. But tonight, though, I thought, instead of us sitting there with a whole bunch of things, I thought I found this video online. It's only 22-minute long. As a disclaimer, though, I have to say, I'm not monetized here, so there shouldn't be any problems with the copyright, because I'm not making any money on it, and that's what they're worried about. As far as the copyright is, if you're making money on it and whatnot. And so this is definitely for educational and entertainment purposes. Just watching and discussing, as we go along. And then if you guys are here live, bring questions, and we can do some more discussing. I know you got some other stuff to bring to the table as well. And so, so hopefully this will favor in fair use, I guess, as they say it, in the disclaimer thingy, which I do have in the description down below, if anybody's worried about it. And I'm hoping that somebody will show up here live. Hopefully people are getting notified that I am going live as well. That could be an issue as well. So I don't know. But without further ado, I guess we might as well just get into the video and start watching, and then discuss it as we go along here. And let's see here if I can. First of all, I got to get it up on here. And then we're going to make it a little bigger here. Here we go. All right, so here we go. And I do have the link for this video in the description. Is the first link that you're going to find down there. So if you want to go and watch this, without us interrupting and all that kind of stuff, by all means, it is down in there. And this is called Sci-Fi Central, I think, is the channel that has done this. I thought it was quite well, and it's got some interesting things in here. And so, make sure you go and, subscribe over there and watch it if you like. The link is down below. So here we go.
Largely unmapped, almost 80% of their wonders remain a mystery to us. They're also one of the most frequently reported places for unidentified aerial phenomena. Only recently, UAPs have been witnessed entering the oceans at very high rates of speed. And since the depth of our oceans can be as much as 6 miles, could it be that some of these UAPs were simply trying to get home? Could there be an underwater civilization of alien life? And could these life forms travel at high speeds in what we now know as unidentified submerged objects? We know they are here, but do they live down there? These are the Alien Disclosure Files. Earth's oceans wield enormous power and energy. Its complexity and interconnectedness with various natural systems make it the most important element of life on Earth.
Phytoplankton are tiny marine plants that produce about 50% of the oxygen on Earth through photosynthesis. The ocean's oxygen production is essential for supporting terrestrial and marine life.
The ocean also plays a vital role in the global economy. Industries such as shipping, tourism, oil and gas, renewable energy, and marine biotechnology heavily rely on ocean resources. It regulates our climate as it stores massive amounts of heat, in turn, stabilizing global temperatures.
But interestingly enough, we're learning more about how water was most likely not organic to this Earth.
Now, I found that very interesting, that water is not organic to this planet.
At least that's what they tell us.
That's what these guys, so he's going to a little bit more depth on that, and where it came from and everything. But yeah, that's new.
I heard recently that water may be one of the most, what do you want to call it, available materials in the universe, and we just fail to see it.
Yeah, so
because it's
they go
everywhere.
to explain here where it comes from, but the idea of it not being originally from here, that's something new to me. That's, you know, considering that 75% of our planet is covered in it, like, you know what I mean? That just seems a little far-fetched, but I don't know. We would have to, you know, do some more research on these things that we're uncovering here in this video, and then continue on the research on our own time, you know what I mean? To see, like, you know, could there be something to that? But I thought that definitely perked my ears for sure.
Earth's water was acquired from water-rich objects called planetesimals, small chunks of rock and ice that formed in the early years of the.
And that was another thing that perked my ears, that the whole rock and ice, because the Nordic mythology is all about fire and ice. Creation started with fire and ice. And so here they're mentioning it as well. So I thought that was interesting as well. There's something a lot more to the whole, I think, mythologies than what we realize. And so that perked my ears as well.
Universe. It is likely that these planetesimals crashed into the Earth's surface and brought our first water. Billions of dollars are spent in search of trace elements of vapor in space, a sign that there could be other life in our universe.
Just a few decades ago, we were searching for water vapor in space. Fast forward to 2011, and two teams of scientists from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and Caltech discovered so much water so far away that it made Earth's ocean look like a single drop of water.
Using an instrument called Z-Spec at the California Institute of Technology's Submillimeter Observatory, a 33-foot telescope near the summit of Mauna Kea in Hawaii, and the combined array for research in millimeter wave astronomy in the Inyo Mountains of Southern California, the scientific teams found more than just water vapor.
They found a huge feeding black hole, a quasar that they called APM 08279 plus 5255. The quasar was surrounded by water, equivalent to 140 trillion times all of the water in the world's ocean, and more than 12 billion light years away.
A quasar is powered by an enormous black hole that steadily consumes a surrounding disk of gas and dust. As it eats, the quasar spews out huge amounts of energy. This particular quasar harbors a black hole 20 billion times more massive than the Sun, and produces as much energy as 1,000 trillion suns.
Water in space is definitely one of the many signs of life in the universe. The aliens seem to have an affection for our oceans and know where to find water. Earth definitely has the surf.
For thousands of years, humans have used two sticks or metal rods to locate water sources under the Earth. It is an almost mystical technique known as dowsing.
If man could use something primitive like dowsing sticks to find water, then I'm sure an advanced civilization come in here in a UAP that defies modern physics could find water in the universe. Regardless, they're all over the ocean, in and out of the ocean.
Splashed. Mark bearing and range.
What lies beneath the surface of the seven seas? Have aliens made a home for themselves in the far reaches of the ocean's unexplored depths? Well, in the case of the Baltic Sea anomaly,
There's so much activity that we see off of the coast here. In Southern California is kind of my beat. And I'm constantly getting UFO reports from boat captains, pilots, military, of objects that are coming out of the ocean into the air. They may be powering their UFOs with water. There may be some element that they are deriving from the cosmic element. So perhaps our visitors have learned to harness that as fuel of some kind.
It has a very famous look to a very famous spaceship in a very famous movie.
treasure hunters Peter Lindbergh and Dennis Asberg were exploring the Baltic Sea when an unusual image appeared on the sonar. A nearly 200-foot cylindrical object. They dove down 300 feet to witness the stunning discovery firsthand in the frigid depths of the Baltic Sea.
And I look at the monitor also and I say, oh, what the heck, you know, this is something for sure. But what is it? I mean, hey guys, have you seen anything like that before? And we begin to measure it and look at it in different angles and so on. And okay, 60 meters in diameter. It's not a small thing. And it's for sure something.
In the frigid depths of the Baltic Sea, the two treasure hunters tried to determine what the large and mysterious object was.
An anomaly in the Baltic Sea that some divers discovered in, I believe, 2011, where it actually looks like a UFO has crashed and a UFO-shaped object has landed in the Baltic.
I mean, even if you take in the equation that it is 75% of the planet, the odds are, if they ever did crash land, that it would be in the ocean. Just by that alone.
Yeah. Well, that's how they like, even with our own spacecraft, they determine that, you know, most of them are going to crash in the water anyway. So why worry about it?
Yeah. So there's that as well, but still, yeah, it's.
See, it looked like it had been there for a while. There was tracks supposedly in the sea where it appeared to have crashed and slid into place.
The enormous, unidentified object measures more than 200 feet in diameter, 26 feet in height, and is covered in strange markings. The ocean floor nearby showed evidence of 1,600 feet of churned-up track. Was this a crashed alien spacecraft?
The Baltic Sea anomaly, Sweden in 2011. Sonar images taken by a Swedish treasure hunting team revealed a strange disc-like shape on the floor of the Baltic Sea. Some enthusiasts speculated it could be a USO, but further investigations suggested it was likely a natural geological formation.
Some people have claimed it's natural. However, they did find a triangular shape on the side of it with a circle in the middle that could have been some type of sign or door at one point.
The treasure hunters also noticed that all of their electrical equipment was failing. That factor alone suggested some kind of alien technology.
Every time we have been there, we have problems with our equipment.
No one's tried to actually take it out of the water. I guess it's just too deep in the sea and in too far of a place to actually try and remove it. However, from the research that I've seen, it doesn't appear like it's a natural phenomenon by the shape and the way it's built and through the triangle in the side. It definitely appears to be either something from an Atlantis type thing that sunk a former human civilization, or some type of vehicle that's crashed, or something that's fallen into the water that was.
Now, we also got to entertain the idea that, you know, we've had pole shifts and we've had a lot of different things. And so some of our old cities and landmass probably ended up underwater at some point. You know, so some of the stuff that we're finding is not going to be some mysterious underwater thing. It's just our old cities and whatnot. You know, that's under there. So, so I expect a lot of that. But my curiosity is more in the depths where we haven't been yet. But we'll get a little bit more into that in here. Yeah, so I mean, you know, I kind of expect that we're going to find a lot.
I think people jump to conclusions when they see that thing because right away it looks like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, and then right away your brain does that thing where it wants to think it's a spaceship, and even though it's probably not, you know, it's kind of like looking at a cloud and saying, "Look, it looks like a whale or a dragon or something," but it's really not. But our brain wants to think it is, and it does. When I look at it, I think Millennium Falcon too.
Well, it does look like the Star Wars ship and whatever. So, but yeah, who knows if they're, you know, those ships are able to go through space as well as water.
Yeah,
because there is actually a debate about, you know, what space is. You know, so it could be there's well, according to the Bible and whatever, that whole firmament thing. We have waters above and we have waters below. So, you know what I mean? So I guess a ship would be able to travel through all of those different types of elements. But again, that's all up for debate, though, isn't it?
Yep.
So, but we'll continue on here.
It was there in the past before it was underwater. It's a unique thing that I'm highly surprised nobody has tried to excavate.
The treasure hunters, Peter Lindberg and Dennis Asberg, gave their findings to scientists at Stockholm University, who think they have solved the mystery. Scientists have concluded that the Baltic Sea anomaly is a leftover from moving glaciers during the Ice Age. In their opinion, the anomaly is nothing more than a glacial deposit. Peter Lindberg, however, refuses to believe that the object could be something so mundane.
I really want to believe it is a UFO we have found. And perhaps it is an old spaceship that have crashed there 100,000 years ago. You know, I want to find out. But also, it can be some kind of construction of a house or something, a castle or whatever. Something out there that have been there a very long time before the Ice Age.
Puerto Rico has long been known as a hotspot for UAP sightings.
We're showing 2 good shoots in the air here from Munster. Roger that, I see the, I got the splash, one splash.
Also known as the Milwaukee Depths, the Puerto Rico Trench is part of the Bermuda Triangle and is the deepest part of the Atlantic Ocean. It is 27,493 feet deep and stretches an awesome 440,000 miles.
The Bermuda Triangle has a long history of mysterious disappearances and paranormal theories. Some have claimed to witness USOs entering or leaving the waters in the area.
Numerous shipwrecks, plane crashes, and disappearances have been recorded in the Bermuda Triangle, hence its second name, the Devil's Triangle. More than 100 ships and planes have also vanished without a trace, including the USS Cyclops, which set sail in March of 1918. The Cyclops was one of the U.S. Navy's biggest fuel ships. It carried 309 crew members and was on a course from Brazil to Baltimore. Sometime in early March, the USS Cyclops vanished. The captain of the ship never made a distress call. The Milwaukee depths, however, are not the deepest part of Earth's oceans. That title belongs to an area in the Pacific known as the Mariana Trench.
The Mariana Trench stretches 1,500 miles in an arc that's edged by Guam and Saipan. It easily dwarfs the tallest mountains on Earth's surface, and the pressures exceed 1,000 atmospheres, or 1,000 times the air pressure at the land surface.
The Mariana Trench is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, a tectonically active region where plates are colliding with each other. As a result, the Pacific Rim stores a tremendous reserve of energy.
UAPs, I believe, are attracted to the ocean. Some people believe that they may use the water as a power source. Also, it's a good place to hide.
Consider the possibility that the aliens living in the Mariana Trench are not native to our solar system, but interstellar travelers from a distant star system. They could have found Earth, particularly the hidden ocean depths, as a suitable place to establish a base or study life on our planet.
The Mariana Trench fascinates scientists who have discovered some puzzling marine life. This area also contains pools of liquid sulfur, a rare phenomenon, which scientists say has been located on one of Jupiter's moons.
Jupiter's moon, Europa, may be like under the surface. It's got a frozen surface, and that it may actually be an aquatic environment down there. There could actually be life on Jupiter's moon, Europa.
Similar to Europa, Enceladus is another moon with subsurface oceans. It's known to have geysers spewing water into space. Perhaps an advanced civilization evolved within these hidden waters, and some of them made their way to Earth's ocean depths.
Is it because UFOs appear to be trans-medium vehicles, able to operate in our atmosphere, outside of our atmosphere, and underwater? What could they be doing underwater? Some people believe that they use water as a refueling system, and it's somehow able to be used as a propulsion system, as fuel for their craft. Others believe that there's bases in the actual ocean. Some believe there's bases underwater.
Many species that live in the darkness of the Mariana Trench look like they could be from another planet. Could they be a hint of what aliens would look like if they lived in the ocean? In 2017, the world witnessed UAPs enter and exit the ocean seamlessly while being tracked by U.S. Navy fighter plane sensors. When below the water surface, UAPs are referred to as Unidentified Submerged Objects, or USOs. USOs may very well be the mode of transportation for an underwater alien civilization.
As far as underwater civilizations, instead of being extraterrestrial, these beings might have evolved right here on Earth, but in the depths of the ocean, isolated from human civilization. Over time...
Now, we got to stop this for the purpose of the thing there, but you know, we've been getting predictive programming in Hollywood for years. You know, I just watched the Aquaman the other day. It's on Netflix now. And you know, they are telling us that there is, you know what I mean, like in all these movies, you know, the mermaid, all of this, like where do you think all this stuff comes from? You know, somebody has seen things, and now with the technology we have today, you know, we're seeing it.
But that's really nothing new. Aquaman is just a new version of Neptune, you know, and
that's who he is. Yeah.
So but that's what I'm saying. That's been around for 1,000 years. I mean, and then Enki and Enlil, one of them lived under the water. So go figure.
So that's what I'm saying. Like all of these mythologies that we have going, you know, from back in the day, there's a little bit of truth in all of that, I think. And they're also showing it like, because Aquaman was basically Zeus or whatever, you know what I mean? Like the old gods. And that's it kind of goes with the old gods are coming back. Well, you know, yes, we can look up and expect maybe something coming that way, but I think there might be, you know, something down there, you know, that they haven't discovered yet. You know, they don't have the technology to go deep enough yet. I don't think so. I find this Mariana Trench kind of interesting. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But let's continue here.
They could have developed advanced technologies and built their own society hidden out of our sight.
Estimates suggest that less than 20% of the world's ocean floor has been mapped with high-resolution sonar. The vast majority of the ocean remains a mystery, especially the deep-sea regions like the Mariana Trench. Only a handful of deep-sea submersibles and remotely operated vehicles have ever reached these extreme depths, which makes the Mariana Trench the perfect hiding place for an alien civilization with an advanced mode of underwater transportation. Earth's oceans are so big and unexplored, they could easily host an unseen civilization right below humanity's feet. But for naval militaries around the world, that's old news.
The Russian Navy has just declassified its records of Cold War UAP sightings. Turns out, 50% of UAP encounters are connected with the oceans.
Lake Baikal is located in Russia near Siberia. In 1982, 7 Russian divers set out on a research mission in the lake. According to historian Alexei Tivanenko, quote, at a depth of 50 meters, they met swimmers around 3 meters tall, dressed in tight-fitting silvery suits. They did not have any scuba or other devices, just helmets on their heads. The Russian divers attempted to capture one of the humanoids, but they immediately found themselves on the lake's surface, suffering from the effects of rapid decompression.
3 people died during that encounter.
Elsewhere in Russia, reports from retired submariners like RADM Yuri Beketov mention all kinds of strange readings.
On several occasions, the instruments gave a reading of material objects moving at incredible speed. Calculations showed speeds of about 230 knots or 260 miles an hour. It was like the objects defied the laws of physics. There's only one explanation. The creatures who built them far surpass us in development.
But there's definitely a relationship with UFOs and water. We see them going into water, coming out of water, hovering around water in groups and by themselves. And UFOs going into water is one of the 5 observables of an unidentified anomalous phenomenon.
One of the most feasible reasons for alien life seeking the ocean's water is the possible harnessing of energy, which could power vehicles or civilizations.
Hydrogen fusion. In this theoretical scenario, the UAP might be equipped with highly advanced technology capable of extracting hydrogen from the seawater and using it as a fuel for nuclear fusion.
While significant progress has been made on Earth in understanding the principles of nuclear fusion and demonstrating controlled fusion reactions, several challenges remain.
Last week, for the first time, they designed this experiment so that the fusion fuel stayed hot enough, dense enough, and round enough for long enough that it ignited, and it produced more energies than the lasers had deposited. About 2 megajoules in, about 3 megajoules out.
Our technology is primitive compared to a civilization that can actually command hydrogen fusion. This breakthrough fusion experiment by the National Nuclear Security Administration, while groundbreaking today, barely scratches the surface of fusion's true potential. Another fascinating, possible scientific explanation for alien interest in the Mariana Trench are the hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, conveniently found where an alien civilization could thrive.
Geothermal energy. If the UAP has the ability to travel deep into the ocean, it could harness the heat energy from the hydrothermal vents on the ocean's floor. These vents release hot water and minerals from the Earth's crust. And if this energy could be harnessed, it could serve as a power source for the craft.
Exploring the myriad bodies of water on the Earth's surface comes with incredible risk. From savage predators to intense pressure, not to mention a lack of oxygen, light, and heat. It is no wonder so much of these areas remain shrouded in mystery. Truth seekers, ufologists, and open-minded scientists fund further research and discovery that may very well uncover some of the key secrets of the universe in our lifetime. But in the meantime, we should be spending equal energy uncovering the secrets that lie closer to home by investigating the oceans and learning what lies beneath.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Where we go?
What lies beneath? Don't forget, everybody, get yourself one of these great shirts. I do not consent shirt. They're
That's
awesome.
right. Yeah, go and visit the merch store. Sorry, I ended up getting a something here because my throat was getting a little itchy there.
We're getting one of these nice mugs with my mug on it before Nina discontinues it, because we're going to get a new one as soon as I send her a picture.
Yeah, get some swag, everybody.
That's right. With the shirt, get the little stickers with my mug on it. You can put my mug anywhere.
Yep.
Anyway.
There you go. There's our little
The
infomercial.
link is in the description below, people. Go get yours.
Yes.
There's our spiel for the day. Anyway, got to do it when we can, about halfway through instead of all the way at the end, and they can just turn us off. But you're going to stay tuned because we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. And one of those things that was really interesting that they brought up just right at the end was that big the what the hell was it? Oh yeah, the Baikal Lake Baikal in Russia. Now,
Right.
Did you know there's global records there? That is the oldest lake in the world. Some little tidbit facts about that. That is 20 to 25 million years old. It is also 5,000 plus feet deep, making it one of the deepest lake, freshwater lake in the world. It is also the largest by volume lake with water in it. So, it's deep versus wide. And if you look at it that way, that's the perfect place. And how do we know that these entities, these aliens that are coming from other places, if water isn't their natural state? How do we know that they didn't evolve in the water?
Yeah, there's a lot of debate about what space is. I've seen a lot of, good arguments that it's plasma out there. And when you look at the, different things that they do, it does kind of look like plasma. Then when you go with the Bible, they talk about the firmament. When they talk about waters above, water below, who's this? There's a whole lot more to all of this than what we are being told, obviously. And so, I know Chloe mentioned something to what she said, water could be a porthole. Yeah, I think there's what we talk about wormholes and black holes and all these kind of things. Well, who's to say that doesn't go into our ocean? So from space to the ocean, just go through like a little slipstream or a slip hole or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, using the energy of the water for the power to porthole. So a few little tidbits about that lake. Now we know it's the deepest lake and everything, but they use that lake for training military divers. Of course, these people, the military is the one that found these swimmers at a very deep depth, and they said in centimeters. I figured it all out. It was 9 or 10 feet tall. They would have been 9 or 10 feet tall. They wore silver suits, no tanks, but they had some sort of a helmet. They also, when the divers tried to capture them, wait a minute, I'm going to back up. Let's rewind that for a second. the story goes, they seen them. Then they came out of the water. They said, hey, let's go capture them. And they went back in the water. There were 7 of them. And they tried to capture them. And these entities seen them, and they fought back with a sonar wave kind of weapon. They knocked out all the divers. 3 of them, they went, 3 were seriously injured, and the other 4 had the bends or whatever it is you get from coming up out of pressure. The reason that they died was that they went in one of those, how decompression chambers, the decompression chamber only held 3. They stuff all 4 of them in there, and then only one of them survived. So that's kind of why the guys were killed. Should have just let one die and put the other 3 and saved one, but they wanted to save them all, and they couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is, who were those people? And they never came up for air. Or were they people at all? Or were they some kind of entity down there that lives at the bottom of that lake?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, centuries, there's always these stories about Ogopogo or, mermaids, and, like, there's definitely something to it. These fishermen and whatever, they've seen things, and we got all the movies, predictive programming, and I do believe that there's going to be some kind of disclosure on this. We're not the only ones talking about it, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed with all the ships are going in the water. Why is that?
My question to you, Nina, is how far back do you think this goes?
I think it goes all the way back, all the way.
And I know there's people out there that are going to say, oh, all this stuff is made up nowadays, blah, blah, blah. That's all fake fiction, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? If I like to study history. You can't go back in history and these people aren't lying. For instance, we'll give you a big fact. Columbus, of all people, wrote about it in his journal as he traveled to the New World. And this is what he saw. He saw a U.S. UFO, and he wrote about it in his journal. And it was described it as a wax candlelight jumping up and down into the water. Of course, he believed it was a sign that they were close to land, and it was, because the next day they spotted land. But he's seen, and where was he? He was in that the Bermuda Triangle area where they were talking about seeing all those UFOs and all the weird stuff happening. Go figure. Yeah. It just goes to say, I mean, it coincides, and it ain't like we're making this stuff up. Columbus wrote it down himself.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely something going on there. We've all heard about the Bermuda Triangle. There's obviously something there, some kind of force field of some sort underneath there. And so, yeah, there quite possibly could be something living under there that's giving off some kind of something, rather, that's affecting our ships and boats and whatnot, but also think about it. The creation story itself, aren't they trying to convince us that we came from the ocean? Didn't we come from the fishies? Aren't we don't we have gills as a fetus, and then it develops into, you know what I mean? So if you want to go with that story, that kind of makes sense. Maybe the Anunnaki and our makers or whatever are actually underneath the ocean, and they created us under there, but then brought us up to the surface.
But you are right on, because back in the day, it says ancient cultures often describe gods or beings arriving from the sea. People like the Dogon, you've heard of, the Nomo spirits, and the Sumerians also talked about it. And, they talked about there's the water as a porthole or a dimensional boundary. You can't make that stuff up.
That's the thing.
Cultures for hundreds of years.
There's a lot of hints in all the different mythologies and stories from around the world that, it definitely makes you wonder, like there's something to all of it, I think. Exactly what it is, we don't know exactly, or the depths of it. We don't know. But yeah, no, I mean, there's so much depth. We don't know what's under there. We don't have the technology to even see that far down. We only can go down so far. So my guess would be that there's a whole civilization down there of creatures that we've never seen before. Colors and.
Well,
And just,
if you were an alien race, that would be a great place to hide because
exactly.
The temperature doesn't really change.
Yeah.
The pressure is going to be you're going to know what the pressure is all times. You're going to be out of sight of the human eye. Now, listen to this. This is really interesting. And I don't know if you knew this, but in the 40s, 50s, and before that, most of the UFO sightings, or what they couldn't explain at that time because they didn't really know what UFOs were, it was a 50-50 split between daytime and nighttime of seeing an alien craft or something flying in the sky that you couldn't recognize. After 1960, the percentage started going down, and by 67 to 69, it was already up to 70% or 75% of the sightings were at night. And now 90% of any UFO out there is seen after dark. 90%. So it just tells you that the aliens know. And if they don't want to be seen up there, they're going to use the water travel, and nobody will see them because we don't know what's down there.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. Chloe's mentioning NASA here, and it is kind of funny how they're looking up. They want to have all these secret space programs and all this other. Why is it that we're not spending any time or money investigating our oceans? Why is that?
Yeah.
Right, that makes me wonder. They're like, "Oh, look up!" There's even a movie named that. Look up, look up. Yeah. Their distraction is up there, right? Look up there. And meanwhile, stuff is happening under our oceans here.
Well, let's go to Mars.
Yeah, right? And also, because we know that this planet goes through cycles. There's natural, things that happen and whatever. It's not the safest place to be on the surface. But if you were deep, deep, deep down there, you probably wouldn't even notice the pole shift as much as you would up here. You know what I mean? It wouldn't bother you as much. So they have a lot better chance of survival down there, and they probably have survived all the different cataclysms that we've gone through. And that's what I'm thinking.
Yes. So let's take another one from the deep, dark past. And we know that Japan, they didn't really have a lot of contact with the modern world. But in 1803, Japan, they found a hollow ship washed ashore on the eastern side of Japan. It was 3.3 meters high, 5.5 meters wide. It was a saucer shaped, and next to it, it was disc-shaped vessel found. It had strange writing etched into this disc-shaped object. A woman in a boat next to it, she had red hair, red eyebrows. She was pale white, and she had pinkish skin. She was wearing a long flowing gown of some sort or whatever with an unknown fabric. She was holding a box that was small and light colored. She wouldn't let anybody touch the box. She didn't speak Japanese. And she was in a boat that was made of wood with a copper bottom, and it had windows. She didn't want to be touched, and she didn't want to be rescued. So they put her back in the boat, and she sailed away. They let her go. And away she went and never heard from again. So that's the story as it goes. What do you make of that?
That almost kind of sounds like the mermaid story.
It does. It does.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying this is what was told, and I jotted the notes down, but it just makes you wonder, was she sailing in her to back in those days, they could have been flying through the water, the air, or whatever, and the boat she had, it describes more of a modern boat, because I doubt they would have had such a vessel, and she was in the vessel, and what fabric that they couldn't describe was she wearing. And she definitely wasn't Japanese. Red hair, and then of course the red hair. The red hair thing. Where do people with red hair come from?
Well, they're all over the place, but the mermaid story, she has red hair, and her gills or whatever, dress or whatever, is made out of like gills. But like, of course it's more, Hollywood version of it. So it's more glittery and, satin kind of, but yeah, I'm depicting a different kind of fabric, I guess, if you were going to try and make a cartoon out of that story type of thing. And sailors have been known to say about stories about hearing mermaids singing, and they get lured into the singing, and they go, and I wouldn't be surprised that they do harvest a guy now and again, for whatever purposes, you know what I mean? Bring them down there. They're probably going to need to replenish their gene pool and whatever, or experiments or whatever, so that doesn't surprise me either, that they lured some of these fishermen off and never to be seen again, so there's definitely something to all of these stories for sure. Yeah. And same with the Ogopogo. Of course, there's going to be large creatures down there that we've never seen. And actually, from what I believe, now that the oceans are warming up and whatnot, some of these larger things are actually starting to come up. So we are starting to discover more species now, just because they are coming up further so we can see them and whatever. So some of them do look really alien looking, like something we've never seen before. So there's probably all kinds of things under there that we can't even imagine, but it was kind of neat watching that Aquaman, because just the colors that they used under the water and everything, and that's kind of how I'm visualizing it as well. There's probably a lot of colors that we don't see here, and beings and jellyfish and flowers type thing, things that we just haven't seen here. So yeah, that would be something interesting. If I was younger, I would want to maybe go and check that out, you know what I mean? But
see, the thing is I wonder about that, because once you get down so far, you were talking about our eyes and seeing those colors and stuff, but once you get down so far, there's no light, and therefore anything that you would see would have to be bioluminescent.
Yeah, so it's like a glow in the dark type of thing. So you can see them. There's got to be some light down there, obviously. Yeah, especially if there's like huge, underwater cities and civilizations and whatnot. There's got to be obviously light there. And who knows? There might be pockets where there is no, you know what I mean? Like, so you just got to get through all the ocean in order to get to the pockets where there is an opening where you can. I don't know. It's just you can just use your imagination here, but. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's all kinds of neat stuff down there that would be very interesting. A lot of our history will be hidden down there as well. If we could only just have a conversation, right, with these beings under there, I think that would be really cool. But just with all programming, there's so many movies now, there's so many things about the underwater thing that I would almost assume that there's going to be some kind of disclosure with that as well. That might be another thing that's going to be coming out soon.
Well, but I don't know. I mean, I think if there is too much, it's going to take a lot for humans to get a full disclosure, because it would upset the balance that we live in. I know people are like, oh boy, I'd like to know if there's aliens or not, but I think it would really disrupt the world as we know it. It would rock religions.
Well,
it would disrupt economies. Yeah. The world would join together as one to defeat this, would become an enemy of us. Because how many movies have we been oh, the aliens, the body snatchers, they're going to come from the ocean and destroy us all. The space aliens want to run our lives. They're going to use us as cattle or food or blah, blah, blah. People get freaked out. People aren't very smart. They've seen too many movies. They're going to freak out. And of course, governments are going to be wary. Like, you've been under the ocean this whole entire time. Oh, we can't go to the ocean bottom. And all you got to do is go to the ocean bottom, and we can't fight you there. Obviously they got better technology than we do. So right there makes them an enemy.
Well, yeah, and that's why they're staying away from us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we already have sort of disclosure as far as other beings out there. There's been enough stuff now mentioned, I would say.
Soft disclosure.
For sure. Like you said, you can't be too hard because people will freak out.
Yeah, because
bonkers.
Because now people see a spacecraft, they go, "Oh, look, I seen an alien spacecraft. I seen a UFO," and people go, "Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. Did you get a picture of it? Oh, yeah, I posted on my YouTube. Yeah, and nobody blinks an eye. Nobody goes, "Oh, you're a nutcase," like they used to do back in the early days. Like, people would just shut up and say nothing because they didn't want to say, "Oh, I see a spaceship." No, you're nuts. You're crazy. They're going to put you in the loony bin.
Yeah, well, they kind of, direct what's trending. They've been doing that way before that was even a word. You know what I mean? Because I mean, back in 1952, was there not several spaceships hovering over the White House?
Yeah, and then
nobody's talking about that. I mean, you got photos of it, you got everything. There was no Photoshop back then,
Nope.
But it's how easy we forget. Because it's not trending now, and because they decide which stories are going to trend. What
happened about the giant UFO that went over Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, just in our lifetime?
Right. They just forgot. They just stopped, posting about it, and we just forget about it because we have a brain of a goldfish.
Swamp gas, nothing to see there.
Nothing to see there. Yeah.
Speaking of that, here's a story.
Our disclosure.
This is what would happen to people back in the day. Now, here's a story about Graham Platoon. He was a pilot. He was traveling with a bunch of other servicemen in a plane when they were traveling from Iceland to Canada, of all places. And between Greenland and Nova Scotia, they seen a light rising from the water. This orb came up. It came up to the aircraft. It hovered by the wing for about 5 minutes so that everybody could see it and get a good look at it. And then it took off. Well, when the crew and the pilot were interrogated, they were interrogated by men with suits. They were shown pictures of different alien craft, apparently, and they were asked to point out which one of those did they see. Now, wait a minute. This was in 1951. Now, my question is where'd they get all the pictures of these alien spacecraft, and why were they asking, which one did you see? This one or this one or this one? And why were the men in suits asking, not the military guys? Tell me that. What do you think?
Yeah, well, there you go. I don't know. It's, there's definitely something to it, so, and they're trying to cover it up. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know what's a psyop and what's actually truth. And maybe there's something in the middle, I guess, of all of it. But I definitely think that there's something under the water, under the oceans. I think that's what we need to pay more attention to, that rather than the space. I think that might be actually the you know what I mean? And I think it is a connection, as above, so below, and it's all connected. Apparently, there is waters above. Apparently, so there's a lot more to the Earth as well. Even the shape of it. I think the land mass is a lot bigger than what they've told us, and so who knows what's beyond, past that ice wall. So I think the Antarctic is some kind of, enter-exit point of this. That's why we're not allowed to go there. I think if we do go there, we have an entryway to under the ocean and possibly into the earth as well, and possibly slip wormhole up to space from there. It's all, you know what I mean? Like, so there's so much more to it, I think, than we can even entertain here tonight. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I got a good question for you. We were kind of talking a little bit about this before the show, and why do you think that these craft are flying around military bases and military ships and all of that? What is your thoughts on that?
We're keeping an eye, yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, if we're gonna go by, well, you know, we're created by something, someone, somehow we ended up here. We are an investment to somebody, and so yeah, they're definitely keeping an eye on. And there's just no way they're gonna allow us to have nukes and whatnot, because we would have blown ourselves to smithereens by now if we had that technology.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at the leaders that we have around the world. I mean, Macron was just caught with his wife slapping him across the face here just yesterday or whatever it was. I mean, you know, these are our leaders in our different countries. Like, it's pretty scary. You know what I mean? What's going on? And never mind the whole Biden thing and whatever else. It's just, you know, these are our leaders. I mean, yeah, we wouldn't be sitting here today, I don't think, if we actually had that kind of technology. So whether or not we did at some point, maybe we did, maybe we didn't, who knows? But if we did, I do believe that was dismantled. Whatever rockets we have are being dismantled. They're not going anywhere. That's what I've heard.
Well, and you got a point there. And maybe they were dismantled. But, you know, as humans, we're pretty crafty. And we'll try to, you know, make a different design that they might not find out. So
I'm sure we try, but you know what? I do believe that they're probably a little bit smarter than we are. Yeah. And it's kind of like parenting. I know you're not a parent, but you know, parents, we know what's going on. We don't tell the kids that we know, but we know, we see, we are, you know what I mean? And so these beings are just like that. They're like our parents.
Yep.
They allow us to do a few things and, you know, get away with a few things, but they're going to rein us in. As soon as they see that we're like, oh, here we go. No, we're going to dismantle that.
And of course, sometimes they got to come out and, like you were saying about disclosure, sometimes they have to do a little bit of disclosure so that the people, because they can't shut everybody's mouth, and then it becomes such a conspiracy. So speaking of this military stuff, which I'm thinking a lot of people here will remember the story about they called it the Tic Tac incident in 2004 with the U.S. Navy in the Pacific Ocean, right off the Mariana Trench. You know, the U.S. Navy pilots from the USS Nimitz, which is also a nuclear-powered carrier strike group, tracked a tic-tac-shaped object off the coast of California. It was observed hovering above the ocean and then dropped into the water at impossible speeds. And if you don't know what that was, you can look it up on the internet. There's about 1,000 videos of that. Sonar and radar detected a strange and underwater movements afterwards. And that was just one that was recent. I mean, 2004 is only 20 years ago.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. We do hear some stories, right? There's a lot of pilots and a lot of, you know, with stories, but they don't make it to the mainstream. They're not going to sit there and, you know, so it's there, but it's not there. Yeah, and most people don't worry about it, you know.
And that's the thing. The government has been doing a really good job of covering these things up. So now we're going to go back in time when they used to tell people, hey, shut your mouth, sign the disclosure form, and we'll come and get you if you talk. So we're going to go back to the 1950s to this guy. You can look him up, people. His name was Charles Bozinski. After he got out of the military and the Navy and everything, he got out and then he blabbed and told his story and wrote a book and whatever he did. He was on the USS Franklin Roosevelt. They were sailing through the South Pacific when he and a bunch of other guys that were on the deck of the Roosevelt, which was another aircraft secret carrier that was doing things. They seen a cigar-shaped craft. They got so close to them This Charles guy said he could see silhouettes through the windows of beings that may have or may not look like humans. That craft hovered over the water. It was about 100 feet long, and another craft about 300 feet long joined it, and then two saucer-shaped craft came out of the water and went inside the bigger craft, and then they flew away. So what is that? And this Nimitz, or this not the this Franklin Roosevelt was the first nuclear-powered ship to sail the ocean, and it had multiple times where it had seen UFOs and that went into the water and stuff, which makes me think that because it was one of the first nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, that it could be tracked really easy, and the people underneath in the water would have been tracking it. It would just make sense, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a good story to follow up on. I tell you, people, look that one up. I was just amazed when I heard that story, because I'm thinking that's been around since the 50s, and I never heard of it. Never. See how good the government shut people up. Shut my mouth.
That's the thing. They tell the newspapers what to print and what to do stories on, and we're only on a need to know basis here. So so they may have even told you, but then haven't talked about it since. That way, karmically, they have told us, but they're not making a big deal out of it, and most people don't follow up and they don't remember, and so. Yeah, that's kind of how it is.
And now, like I said, when they see a UFO, they go, "Oh, look, it's just a UFO. Don't worry about it. It's just like an airplane."
Program now. We've been desensitized to that whole idea, and so video games and the movies and everything. So it's. I mean, even look at the Kennedy file. I mean, they actually came out and admitted that it was them, the three-letter agency that did it, and yet. Nobody's talking about it. We're kind of like, we just sort of watched. It's one of those stories that we'll revisit in 10 years. And like, hey, wait a minute. What happened to that? Oh, well, it just so vanished. We just didn't talk about it no more.
Yeah.
Nobody
protested. Nobody marched down to Washington. Nobody did anything. It's been so ingrained in our minds that it's such a conspiracy. And when it finally come out, people just went, I knew it. I knew it. That's great. Right. I'm good.
Well, they're not going to come out and say, oh, well, I guess your conspiracy theories were right. And considering that word conspiracy theories were literally made up by them who did that to gaslight everybody who questioned it. I mean,
you can't make that up.
You can't even make this stuff up, guys. There is no such thing as conspiracy theories. It's conspiracy facts. But they're not going to come out. Oh, I guess you were right. Nobody comes out and says that. Nobody, is going to, So, but it's funny how they don't talk about it.
You know how the new narrative is, though, right? Well, we have secret spacecraft now that look like UFOs. So now people are questioning: is it one of ours, or is that a UFO?
I was going to say, I think most of the ships that you guys are seeing, that people are seeing, is our own military. They have, back engineered. They found some things, and they've made some things, and so they're able. They have all kinds of technology. The military. So most of the stuff that we see is them. I would say I was probably like 95%. I think it's probably very, very seldom that we've actually seen something for real. You know what I mean? But who knows? Who knows? Nobody knows for sure. But a lot of it is the military. Yeah. And so, like this, remember the beginning of the year, we had all these drone attacks and all kinds of weird stuff. That's all them. It's all them, right?
Yeah, I remember that. They were like, oh, it's a mothership that's parked
mothership from Iran, of course. You got to use that.
And they're sending drones and what are the drones doing? Well, they're just flying around the city. Doing what? Well, we don't know. Well, why aren't you chasing them? Well, we don't know. Remember, Trump
why do you even allow that? Again, it's just ridiculous, right?
And again, what did Trump say? Well, when I get in, I'm going to tell you all about it, what they're for, and who's doing it.
Nobody's talked about that either. It's all
No,
forgotten.
he got elected, and
Oh, yeah,
the thing
nothing.
went silent. He was like, "Yeah, I'll look in." I remember him saying, "I'll look into it right away." And then he pointed to somebody and says, "Go find that out." And that was the end. That was it.
That's the end
The
of
big
it.
hoopla gone. I got elected. See, I told you I'd go check into it, and I sent somebody to check into it, and forget about it now. We got bigger, better things to worry about.
Yeah. So
I mean,
so I don't know.
we are, as a people, I think we are so bamboozled that they could literally, I mean, like the one over
Aliens at the mall. That was
yeah.
another thing, like
Yeah, that was in Florida, wasn't it?
yeah, Florida Mall or something. Yeah, weird. Like I don't know. That's the thing, and we don't know what to think anymore.
Yeah.
We are kind of expecting some sort of fake alien invasion of some sort. I do believe that is coming up, but again, I don't think it's there. It's not real. It's fake. It's our own military that's going to be doing it, but it's going to look really real, and people are going to die, and there's going to be some show, and people are going to get freaked out. But I don't believe it's another species.
I don't think people are going to get as freaked out as they thought. I swear they could have an alien ship land on the lawn of the White House right now, and people would be like, I don't know if that's CGI. That's really good video. Is that real or not? I don't know. Oh, look, I seen that. I think that I seen that on YouTube one day.
Well, the whole thing could just be done in a studio and then shown to us that looks like it's the White House, but it's not. Mind you, I mean, they would then have to shut down the power because everybody around the White House would be able to confirm on social media whether or not it's going on or not. That's the thing. We do have social media now. And so if you're starting to see everybody posting, of something going down in their city, that's, you got to kind of believe. And I do believe there is going to be some kind of show. No doubt about it, where real people are going to end up dying.
They already said there was going to be a show. It's called Project Bluebeam. Remember?
Yeah, well, there's that. See that? Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, they're going to use it. They're going to do a lot of different tactics, I think. They're going to have their ships that the military already have, and then combine it with a little bit of blue beam back there, and they can make Jesus come back for all of, I mean, if that's what they want, right? So,
well, think about it. If for the Christians' sake, if a spaceship showed up tomorrow and Jesus walked out in his long flowing robe and his little crown on his head, carrying a staff with the
that would have to be it.
They would be like,
I mean, he does actually.
Hallelujah!
I know. In the Bible, he says it's going to come down in the cloud. Well, how would you come down in the cloud? You would come in a ship. How else would you come down? You know what I mean? So that's exactly how he would be coming back if he does. However, if you continue on reading about what he says, he also says he's not coming to bring no love and light here. He's coming back with the sword. Okay, so if you see Jesus, run, because that's not good times for us. Okay, we're so yeah. But yeah, who knows what they're going to pull here. Last week's video was very interesting too, about that whole guy that thinks he's the successor of all these religious beings. You know what I mean? So that's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. If you guys missed last week's video, make sure you go and watch that, because that was a good one. There's a lot of things that's a guide to look out for. And also, looking out for the oceans and paying attention to the small stories, the ones that don't quite make it to the big screen. You know what I mean? Because they will tell us, but then, forget about it. They're not going to trend those stories so that we don't remember. So pay attention, keep your eyes, keep your head on a swivel here for sure.
They only allow the news to come out that benefits the good of what their agenda is. And the rest is tossed under the rug. It makes the local paper, and that's about it. And that's the thing. They'll kill a story in a heartbeat, but promote some minuscule thing from Timbuktu land to the head of the newspaper and on every talk show there is. You've seen it before. I have too. It's like, what are we listening to? We were talking. They're talking about some lady arguing with a guy over nothingness and whatever about who has the right to do whatever.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of nonsense out there, a lot of distractions, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so, so keep your eye on a swivel, so that when the distractions come up, look around and see what's actually going on, So, keep an eye on the whole ocean thing for sure. I know I have been for a while now. It's caught my attention, and obviously, there's a lot more to it. I should have done more research really earlier to see what else is there out there, like, so that I can start getting some of that stuff on my feed. That's the thing about, I have a hard time, like Wayne's shows. He doesn't even show up on my feed, and I watch him every single day. You would think that would be the first show that would show up on my feed would be R. Wayne Steiger. And yet, no, because I know he's on, I have to actually manually go into his account and find it. But, so a lot of this stuff that I'm interested in, I'm not seeing it, because it's being buried, unfortunately. So
you have to go and search it out.
You got to search it all out. Yeah.
And it's amazing how YouTube did that to me a couple weeks ago, where, I usually watch these certain shows, and then all of a sudden I got a whole bunch of other shows. It was like this ain't even my YouTube normal watching stuff. And of course, then I started clicking on other things because it was there. And then it was like, well, what happened? Why is this doing what it's doing? But I think they're just trying to throw you off of one show or another. And then, maybe you watch this instead of that, even though you watch that other stuff all the time.
Yeah, they're doing all kinds of funky things in there. That's, who knows exactly what, So, but so anyways, we should probably, shut this down so it's not too dragged out for the replay. You know what I mean? Most people are going to be watching this on the replay. So, but this is just kind of to bring to your awareness. That's what most of my shows are all about, bringing things to your awareness so that you can go, maybe I should look into this, and study and research for yourself and see what you can find. And, if you want to email us with ideas of shows coming up, maybe you found something really cool that you want us to talk about, email us. Both our emails I think are down below there in the description. And,
find something interesting. We will do the research and talk about it and make good talk of whatever, because there's a lot of things to look up. I mean, like I said, once I started looking some of this stuff up, I realized there's so much stuff that comes out of the water. I mean, even like if you ever watched the Missing 411 channel with David Politis, he talks about most of those missing people go missing near a body of water. How is that possible?
So there you go. Who's to say that, that beings aren't coming up and, feeding, essentially, taking us and whatever, because the Bigfoot thing, that's another, phenomena. But, I do believe they're there, but, we can't see them. They have abilities that we don't have anymore. I actually believe that they are what we were genetically spliced with. And so, because we used to apparently have all of those abilities that the Bigfoot has, but they were turned off, they only, fused 2 out of the 12 DNA thingies, so that we aren't able to do all the things that we used to. And so, so this is why we don't see them. We never see any trace of them, because they just disappear. They just, you know what I mean? So,
I always say about the Bigfoot is you can't throw Bigfoot out the door that he doesn't exist, because so many people see him that sure, if 1,000 people said they seen Bigfoot, maybe 900 of them mistook a bear or seen something that they weren't sure of, or maybe didn't see anything at all. What about the other 10%? Maybe they really did see a Bigfoot. And then what about that 1% that got so close that they literally were an arm's length away from a Bigfoot or got a picture of a Bigfoot that, maybe ended up being blurry, but you can't deny that all of those 1,000 people seeing zero. That's almost
I've heard of people that we actually know, who have seen it as well, and what they saw was they somehow ran into each other or whatever, and he cloaked himself, and he was gone. But and like him, he never. I think on my show was the first time he ever told anybody publicly about this story, and that's the thing. How many other people having encounters that don't say a word? Because most people are like, oh yeah, I better not, because I don't want to be seen as a kook or whatever. So they just bring that to their grave. A lot of people. There's not that many of us that really go out with all that stuff. So I can only imagine how many have actually seen it.
Things are a little more open now, but you're exactly right. Just like the UFO stuff. Back in the day, you said you've seen a UFO and you go to the loony bin. Today you see a UFO and they go, oh, that's cool. Bigfoot the same way. Oh, we've seen Bigfoot. Oh, another one of those wackos. And now they have TV shows where they're trying to track Bigfoot by knocking pieces of wood against a tree. We're gonna go.
Entertainment. It doesn't take much for us to be entertained, though. So
I know, but I mean, it's become more mainstream and acceptable now.
It's more acceptable now, and that's what they've done with the TV, television, right? That's why we got the TV to tell us a vision, to program us into what they want us to know. And that's what they've done, and they've successfully done that now, and that's why we're all awake, because we have seen the things that they have allowed us to see. That's another thing you got to remember, that all the things you're seeing online, everything, that's there because they allow it to be there. If they didn't want you to know that, it wouldn't be there. So, and I've seen it in real life, how they've scrubbed the internet and how you can't find things like you used to and whatever. So anyway, anyways, I hope that you guys, got something out of this. If you did, leave us a comment down below. Make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe. And what do you want to close it off with there, Robert? Do you want to tell us what you got going on?
I'll come back now about Tuesday when me and David Null will be back for another show of Native American myths and legends, where we will be talking about mountain men and trappers and things like that. I got a whole pile of books about mountain men and how they interacted with the Indians, and there's a lot to be learned by that. Maybe there's a Bigfoot story in there too.
I was going to say, I'm sure that the natives have all kinds of stories of supernatural things. And stay tuned for that. Go and make sure you subscribe over to Robert's channel there. I got 3 of his channels, I think, down in the description here. So go and do that. And if you guys are on Kick, follow me on Kick. I'll be going live on Kick on Wednesdays. So every Wednesday for the hump day, I'm going live over on Kick now. So if you're on there, follow me there. And so all my links are down below. Go and check out the merch store if you would like to support the channel and get yourself a one-of-a-kind item. And stay tuned, because we got lots more shows coming up. And so thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.